Hi, and welcome to another edition of Inside Government. I am your host, Giselle Misudan York. And today with us, we have newly appointed head of the Sint Maarten Tourist Bureau, Mr. Rolando Bryson. And he has brought along a guest with him. We have Ms. Julie Kester of Spring O'Brien MMGY Global Marketing Firm. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Rolando, you have been at the Tourist Bureau since February. You're a new head. What has your experiences been so far?
My experiences have been very good, very positive, to be honest. I mean, from a personal level, I enjoy it every day. I enjoy waking up to work every single morning, I must say. But also, I think the team that I work with I feel like a sense of motivation, a sense of pride in being a part of the Sint Maarten Tourist Bureau, together with everyone that we work with. I think stakeholders that we've been meeting with feel very positive about the things that we're doing, both locally and internationally. So when I talk about stakeholders locally, we're talking about the hotels, the taxi drivers, and everyone that's involved in our tourism product, which is really everyone on Sint Maarten. Mm-hmm. But internationally as well, we've been meeting with airlines, we've been meeting with different brands, marketing firms, and everyone feels that there's some positivity based on the plans that we've presented in the short couple of months that I've been in. And together with our minister, I think we have a very great relationship between all the sectors of the Ministry of TEAT as a whole. We've been working very well as a management team. So it's just really it could not have been better. It could not have been a better start for me. And I'm very happy to say that's how it is.
Now, you're a young professional in your early 30s. So you haven't really had, even though you're well known, mm-hmm. professionally, you may not be that well established yet on Sint Maarten. So for mm-hmm. those of the person that are not familiar, can you give us a little background about your education and your professional experiences?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I go back, what I always hearken to, especially in this position, was it was almost exactly 16 years ago when I first got a kind of a glimpse into the tourism industry because I participated in the local tourism debates that we had at the time. And my school ended up winning, and we were allowed to represent Sint Maarten in Barbados. Together with another classmate of mine, Donnalis Brown. And we went to Barbados and we were also successful there. And I was voted also the first chairman of the CTO Youth Congress. So that already gave me such a nice feeling that, this tourism thing is pretty interesting from that leadership perspective. So after encountering that, I was convinced. At the time I was thinking about becoming an accountant, but like my dad, but I said, no, I think I like the tourism industry. I want to work in this. So I decided to go to Holland and studied in tourism and recreation management in Amsterdam, in Haarlem, actually. I lived in Amsterdam. And I came back. I worked for Winair, the airline, our local airline, for 5 years. And I felt like I wanted to broaden my expertise a little more. So I opened a marketing firm. And through that marketing firm, I worked for many establishments on Sint Maarten, most notably Sint Maarten Carnival. And I've done many projects trying to kind of get the broad knowledge of tourism. I've worked with hotels, I've worked with events, with nightclubs, with restaurants, you name it, in order to really get an idea of what our tourism product is. And then ultimately, when the opportunity was there for me to apply for the position, I didn't hesitate. I think the minister at the time told me I was the first application that came in. So, and then the rest is history. Eventually, I got into the position where I am now, and I'm happy to be here today.
Back again to the young professional mm-hmm. aspect, because I always like to speak to young professionals when I have the opportunity to ask them certain questions. There are certain unique challenges mm-hmm. that we face sometimes on a small island such as this. So being a young professional in such a prestigious role, have there been any challenges that you think is attributed more to your age than to maybe your background?
Yes. Oh, definitely. And I mean, some people maybe don't like to admit it because sometimes until you're the victim of it, you don't understand. But it's very easy I feel in Sint Maarten, for a young person to be scrutinized a lot more. I think there's a perception that young people can be reckless, that, if we've made any mistakes in our past, that means we're the worst thing ever. That you have to be careful with young people. We're radical, especially the millennial generation. They think too out of the box. They don't listen to authority. I don't think any of that is true. I think those stereotypes are quite incorrect because I believe that especially our local millennial generation, if it's one thing that classifies us, is that we're team players. And I think if you speak to anyone in my department, for example, or the management team, they understand that that's really how millennials think, because we think in the age of social media, it's all about connections. It's all about networking. How can I help you so that you can help me? And I think I think it's less to do with we as young professionals. I think it's more to do with the generation before us to embrace that, hey, don't be scared of this new millennial wave that's coming. That's, yes, we are vocal, but we are team players and we are goal oriented. We set a goal, we want to get it done, and we'll find ways to get it done. And I think it takes an attitude from both sides. I think we, as young people, also sometimes have to throttle our ambitions a little bit, because, like you say, we are very goal oriented, but sometimes you want the goal to be achieved now. So I'll admit that is something that we might have sometimes, and I've learned to, especially in government where there's a lot of procedure, rules, regulations. You've had to tame that a little bit to understand that, listen, things will come, but you got to do it the right way. And my encouragement is to always keep at it, no matter what comes, what difficulties what people might say. If you know something is for you and you believe that you're qualified, that you deserve it, work towards it, and don't let roadblocks stumble you down and feel like, oh, society is against me, or I'll never have a chance here. I think if I did that, I think if I didn't persevere, I think I would have created a recipe for how to really stop young professionals from moving forward. You have to keep pushing no matter what. You have to go for what you have to get.
Thank you for expounding on that. I've had many conversations both with persons of our own generation and even persons of the generation before us on the whole millennial wave and the negative aspects and the positive aspects. So I'm happy you said all of that, and I hope that encourages our fellow peers out there to not get discouraged, that definitely. We can be successful, we can strive and move forward.
And I would add one thing. Sometimes what I've learned too, I think they see that you can be easily discouraged. It's almost like a test. Let me see how much pressure this person can handle if I'm telling them, I don't think you're good enough for this job. And maybe the person doesn't truly think that, but they're kind of telling you that to see if you will you reapply? Will you apply yourself? So I think that's something you have to really go to be able to persevere and show people that, you're serious about what you want.
Now, even in the newness of your position, you have been traveling a lot. You've been all over the world, if I think I can say that. But most recently, you've been in the U.S., you've been in Miami, you've been in New York and a few other places. So can you tell us about your experiences in the last few weeks? Yeah.
So just to explain about that, because, if it's one department that I will admit that does travel quite a lot, will be the Sint Maarten Tourist Bureau. For many reasons, a lot of negotiations that take place, particularly with airlines. I mean, where possible, we try to invite the airlines to come here, but their schedules don't always permit that. And not only that, when we go, for example, when we recently went to New York to negotiate with JetBlue about opening the Fort Lauderdale route, if you looked across the room, we had our marketing firm that was with us. You had about 8 different departments of JetBlue that really have to be a part of the decision to come to Sint Maarten: the route development, government affairs, marketing, vacations, operations, fleet management. All of them are in the room. So it's a lot easier for us to be able to go there as a team, meet with them and make these very critical things possible, than for us to always bring them here. And what we try to do, and what I've done with my scheduling, is I've tried to, let's say, for example, when we went to New York, before that, there was a conference in Miami. So I try to tie, okay, let me go to Miami, then go to New York. And while in New York, that I'm there for another conference, let me meet with JetBlue, whose office is also there. And let me also meet with my marketing firm, whose office is also there, rather than go to New York, come back, go to New York, come back. No, that's traveling is nice, but you also get tired of it once in a while. So we really work hard to try to consolidate our schedules really wisely, and try to make the best of any trip that we go. But every time we go, we come back with the purpose of bringing tangible business to Sint Maarten. And I think in each of the trips I've been on so far, we've been successful in that. When we went to Las Vegas, that's what started the discussion with Southwest and JetBlue, for example, and as well as Eurowings, when we go to places like Las Vegas for routes. When we went to Miami, that established a lot of good relationships between us, different hoteliers, and also learning. We had a lot to learn there. And in New York, Caribbean Week, being a part of CTO, being inducted as a director for CTO, that's really part of Sint Maarten having a say in what happens to the Caribbean product. So overall, it's been some great travels and very positive, tangible results.
Now, I want to jump to something you just said. You just said that you went to the CTO conference. And for those that don't know, that stands for the Caribbean Tourism Organization.
Yes, that's right.
And you said you were pinned as a director.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about the CTO and Sint Maarten's role in that organization?
Okay, so the CTO, pretty much the Caribbean Tourism Organization, as you said, is an organization that has a main goal of unifying the Caribbean as one brand. It is very important because, like Julie mentioned in her presentation yesterday, is that we are not marketing Sint Maarten to the US. We're marketing Sint Maarten to people who want to travel to the Caribbean. Because if you try to market to the 75 million travelers, then we'll have to have $1 billion budget like Apple to be able to do that. We don't have that. So we have to really find who are the people that are really, truly interested in coming to the Caribbean. That's what we as individual islands try to do. But the role of getting people interested in the Caribbean as a destination, that is something that organizations like the Caribbean Hotel and Trade Association and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, they work very hard to create that brand. As a matter of fact, we recently had one of the former directors, Mr. Vincent Van Tapu Wallace. He's pretty much known as the Caribbean guru of tourism. And he was here and he expounded on that fact that when he was director, he noted that the term Caribbean actually was not a brand, it was just a word. And CTO made a move to actually trademark Caribbean as a brand, which allowed us to use it and get it out there and let the Caribbean, because we do have competition. The Caribbean competes with Mexico, we compete with South America, Asia, Europe, and domestic tourism. It's also about telling people don't only go to Miami or other sunny locations in the US. Sometimes we forget the US has some nice beaches too, but get them to come to the Caribbean. And then that subset that is decided, we like what the CTO has painted as a Caribbean product. Let's say that 20 to 25 million, then we market to them. And CTO helps us pinpoint that. And as in terms of being the structure, there's a council of ministers, which are all the ministers from the various islands that are members. And then there's a board of directors. The board of directors more deal with the actions that have to be taken. For example, we're coming up with the 5-year strategic plan for CTO. So all of us that are directors be a part of forging that way forward. And it was a great experience. It was, like I said, it was kind of full circle for me, because 16 years ago when I went to CTO was as a little kid, as a youth congress. And then now it was a bit of an emotional situation, I had to say, to be pinned as a director now in a much more senior role. So very good prospects, I think, working with CTO.
Great. Now moving back locally to the Tourism Bureau, can you describe for us what did you walk into? What was your impression of the Bureau, how it functioned, what its goals were? What did you walk into, and what are your plans and initiatives for the Bureau going forward?
Well, I think coming into it, I think there was just uncertainty for some time. I think the changes in government and so on, I know that's a difficulty across government, and the Tourist Bureau is no exception. It's not easy when you work for 3 or 4 months on a plan or a directive from a minister that would like to go in a certain direction, and then when that changes, you basically have to tear up all those plans and start again. It created some demotivation over the years, I think, and I've tried my best to, coming into the situation, to really get that motivation back up. For all those factors that were there, I said, look, team, I just want us to start on a clean slate. I want us to work together, and we've implemented some things like ensuring that the 2 sections of the Tourist Bureau, which is marketing and product development, that they actually conduct weekly meetings, that they keep each other informed, that there's a clearer division of tasks. And also one of the key things I try to identify is that there's a natural thing that people have where they're interested. If the Department of Communications didn't think you were interested in this, I don't think they would put you behind the camera. And you have to identify that as a leader. Okay, yes, you're working for the organization, but what are your real strengths, and how can I apply those and move you onto projects that play to those strengths? So that was one of the first things I did. I really tried to get to know my team and look at them and see, okay, I see that you have a bit of an affinity for the American market. So, like Marla, okay, we put her together with our marketing team in the US. We looked at Janira, who came out of the Netherlands, lived there for 8 years. speaks the language fluently, understands the Dutch market. You know what? Let's put you to really work closely with our Dutch firm, our Benelux firm. And those are the type of things that we continue to do. I identified on the product development side. You know, we have Janelle that's always been interested in social media. So I said, okay, let me give you some social media training and get you to handle some of the social media work that we have to do. And that's really was the main thing. Once we made those adjustments within the department, I saw productivity go up. I saw motivation go up. I saw people smiling and happy to come to work. And I think it's the most important thing to have a great working atmosphere, because if that's not there, you can have the best professionals with PhDs and masters, all you want. If they don't want to work, there's only so much they will work. And since then, it was really about working together with my Secretary General, Mr. De Weaver, as well as our minister and her cabinet, and presenting a new year plan based on a new governing program, seeing how we can fit in. There were some new elements that had to be added. For example, sports tourism is a part of the new governing program. So we had to come up with something to say, okay, how can we involve sports tourism? And that's where we came up with the Summer of Sports campaign, looking at 3 or 4 organizations in the summer slow season that do sports, and let's support them not only financially, but also from a marketing perspective. So have our marketing firms tell people, hey, if you like fitness and calisthenics, there's a nice event going on here. Come on down from New York and join them. And actually they did. We had someone from Chicago that came to the event. And we see that going forward, like at the Battle of the Fittest tournament, we know there's an American team, a group of American guys that are coming down, and they're like, okay, we'll join the tournament. Those little things create a nice bond, because not only are you coming to play sports, but you're meeting the local people. You kind of create that attachment. So that's just some of the examples. I mean, I can go on and on for hours if you like about the many things that we've been able to do in such a short amount of time. And it's not for the purpose of trying to upplay my department in any way. It's just a matter of we're really working there's a synergy within the team, and we're just churning out project after project, because a lot of them have been sitting there, and we just needed to put the right people and so on.
How closely tied is the Bureau with the local hospitality industry, the hoteliers,
Yes.
organizations such as the SHTA and the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
How is that relationship? Is it stable? Would you like for it to be even more better? What do you think about that?
I think one of the things I did, I think it was within 2 weeks of coming into office, because you can imagine my first week was more meetings than anything. But the minute I had some time to really invite people to our office, the first meetings we had were with the harbor, the airport, and the Small Properties Association and the SHTA. Because we looked at those 4 entities in particular, and we've also sent invitations to meet with the Chamber of Commerce, Indian Merchants Association. But these 4 in particular, we felt like are doing things that are all for the tourism product, but they're all doing it in different directions. And I wanted to create a possibility where the STB can be a source in between and unify things a bit and make sure that we're all going in the same direction and we're all using resources efficiently. For example, in meeting with the airport and the harbor, one of the things we noticed is that, okay, but my department's going to send 4 people to the vacancy burst, and airport's going to send 4, and the harbor's going to send 4. And we're all going to have these expensive booths. And we decided, no, let's do something unified, something big, something looks good, and we all participate in it. And then the cost goes down, and the effectiveness of it goes down, and then the message that's sent is also unified. So these are the things we've done. And with regards to the SC, I had a meeting, like I said, within 2 weeks of starting and looking at the urgent issues. To be frank, I can sense some frustration that was there, like that there was things that they knew had to get done that wasn't getting done. And I took note of it. And since then, some of the things that we looked at was SMART, the SMART conference. Up until when I came in, there was no clear decision. Is SMART happening? Is it not happening? Are we supporting it or not? So that was one of the first things we jumped at with the SHC. I said, okay, no, we're going to get SMART done. You have our commitment. It's an important event. And as we saw, it was very good. We had great results. With the airport, we worked together with them for the Caribbean Aviation Conference. And with the harbor, we're working with them in terms of Sea Trade, FCCA, and these conferences that are coming, and as shared marketing as well. It's been very good in terms of our stakeholders. We're working very well with them. We're happy to work with them. There's always some disagreements and so on, but that's part of the business. But the point is that we are communicating and working together, and that all culminated with what we did recently, which is having all the stakeholders come together and meet with our firms.
That is the perfect segue for us to include Julie in our chat, who has been patiently sitting and listening to Rolando talk about himself and his department. Julie, you are with as I mentioned before, Spring with Brian, MMGY Global, and your firm is currently marketing St. Maarten in the North American market. So can you tell us a bit about yourself, about your firm, and your impression of St. Maarten as a tourist destination?
Sure, happy to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. So I've been with the organisation for about 15 or 16 years. We are a marketing firm based in the US. We have 4 main offices. We have our headquarters in Kansas City, Missouri, so good Midwest coverage. We have a large office in New York City, one in Los Angeles, and another research office in Orlando. We specialize 100% in the travel industry. So we do integrated marketing for travel companies. About 40% of our business comes from destinations. So we work with both domestic US destinations as well as destinations around the world. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the US, but have lived there more years than I care to count, and will reveal my age. But I've lived and worked in the US for quite some number of years now, and my specialty is international destination marketing. So I've come from a background of tourist boards. I've also worked for tour operators and tour wholesalers. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of the marketing of international destinations. And that's really what my team that I manage in the US, that's what we specialize in. In terms of my impression of St. Maarten, I've had a great 5 or 6 days on island. Certainly I've spent some time in meetings and meeting with stakeholders and obviously the tourist board. Especially since we're very new. We're about 2 weeks into our official agreement.
Oh, that's soon.
So, yeah, very, very new. But, we've had, been talking to the tourist board for a little bit of time. We've certainly done a good amount of research, but we've certainly got some more to dive into once we get back to the US. But in terms of my impression, I've had an amazing experience. Not only, as I said, have I met with stakeholders and the tourist board, the minister, but I've also had a chance to experience some of the island experiences. I'm overwhelmed by the sheer amount of activities and things there are to do, and I think we really have an amazing product to take home and market to Americans.
Now, I'm glad you said that you're new and you're just starting your research. Is there anything that immediately jumps out about St. Maarten as a tourist destination?
Well, I certainly think the uniqueness of the two countries on one island, and I know that we work for the Dutch side and the Dutch side of the island, but I definitely think that is something unique. You can't get that anywhere else in the Caribbean, and I think we need to work with that and really, highlight that it is such a unique experience. I think also just the sheer number of variety of resorts, variety of beach experiences, and I got a chance to see some of the beautiful, pristine beaches. And there's so many different opportunities. There's things that speak to the family travellers, and that's certainly topical as we move into the summer months. But there's also something for that honeymoon couple that's looking for a romantic getaway and a resort that matches their personality. So I think just the sheer variety of things and activities and resorts and beaches is one of the big selling points of St. Maarten.
This question is going to go back to Orlando. We all know of the attractiveness of our island and all of the things that we have to offer. What are some areas of improvement as a destination product that you think we need to make along with Julie and her company, but just what else besides that?
I think a lot of our product development has to do with our environment. And we can't shy away from the fact that we do have a situation with dump that I'm hoping is going to be resolved over the next few years. And I've heard various commitments from government that there are solutions in the pipeline. I think we also have to look at what's happening in infrastructure in terms of roads and connections, public transportation. But that's also been improving. I've been hearing about the various taxi associations moving to really provide better service for our tourists. So not every single tourist that comes there has to rent a car. I think if they know that there's good and affordable public transportation, our tourists will take it, and that'll alleviate a bit of the traffic situations. But overall, I think our product is the most important thing about our product is really the people. And we as a tourist bureau also have a responsibility to inform properly the public about the importance of tourism, about how it matters, about customer service with a smile, as we call it, and really becoming what's on every single one of our license plates, which is the friendly island. Because I think if there's anything of our product that will always have to improve, will be our service to tourists. No matter how great it is, we should always strive to improve it, not just for tourists, but for each other. We should always treat each other good, and we should have a good level of service and a friendly atmosphere, which is what everyone loves about Sint Maarten, be it a local or international.
Now, on June 19th, you hosted a stakeholder session.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about that before, and Julie, you made a presentation there yesterday. Can you share a little bit with us about your presentation?
Sure, certainly. Well, our presentation was really to introduce the stakeholders to our organisation, to understand that, you're certainly investing in us as well to help progress tourism in St. Maarten. So making sure that everyone knows and understands our experience and how we try and work with the destinations that we work with. So we certainly focused a lot on that. I also talked a little bit about the US market and, what are some of the trends that are going on in the market. The good news story is that, Americans are really interested in travel. They're planning to spend. They just need to find the place to do that. So we talked a little bit about the market and what we could expect. And then some base level introduction to our approach. As I said, we still have to go back and do quite a bit of research, make sure we get sort of all our ducks in a row, if you will. But we did sort of start and give a little brief introduction into how we see things working moving forward.
Are there any future plans to hold more of these sessions?
Oh, definitely. Whether it's going to be with our marketing firms, which we think will be at least twice a year. I'm kind of envisioning one ahead of the slow season or at the end of the high season, however you look at it. Kind of to recap, okay, how have we done over the high season? How has the performance been, and what are we going to do for the critical low season? If it's one thing that came up over and over yesterday, is that it's very clear that the stakeholders want our marketing firms and the tourist bureau to focus on the low season. Get people here between May and November. We'll figure out the rest. That was basically the message around there. One example that was put to us is that, hey, it's always it's always harder to get from 70 to 80% occupancy than from 30% to 60% occupancy. So let's focus on where we really have availability, where it's cheaper, where people are willing to give discounts to tour operators, and truly get that going. So that's why we want to do something ahead of the low season and at the end of the low season to really see what has happened, what has transpired, and what we can apply for the following year. So I'm envisioning sometime in November doing this again and inviting our firms to come and join us and kind of recap, okay, here's what's happened over the last 6 months. Other than that, we also want to have more stakeholder, maybe a bit of a tighter, more like a work group situation where we invite, let's say, a member from the chamber, a member from the SHTA, small properties, IMA, the various organizations, and maybe just have one member of each on a more of a roundtable discussion type of thing, a think tank, coming up with each of the stakeholders' various opinions on what's happening. I envision something like that happening on a quarterly basis. And that, I think, will keep us all in tune with what's happening. We as a tourist bureau can't just come up with everything on our own. We do want and need the input of our stakeholders because they're the ones out there seeing the customers every single day. So if we know what they're seeing and what they're facing, what we need to improve, and we can go based on that, and then we can feed that back to our marketing firms and let them know, hey, this is what's happening. This is what we should put out there.
Great. This has been such an interesting, exciting conversation that we're hitting that time mark.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to thank you for coming in to speak with us today. I look forward to seeing more of you, Rolando, sure. And maybe even Julie, if you come back in November, we can have another interview with you and see how things have progressed since then. So once again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
And that's it for today's edition of Inside Governments. On behalf of the Department of Communication, once again, my name is Giselle Misudan York, and we will see you next time.